Hello and welcome to Bread of Life, a daily devotional program which each week features a different area pastor. Our speaker for this week is Pastor Cary Schmidt of Newington.
Hi friend, this is Pastor Cary from Emmanuel Baptist Church. We've been looking at Luke chapter 24 and the idea that Jesus is writing an ultimate story. He appears to a group of fearful, worried, displaced, despairing disciples, and he shows himself alive. It freaks him out. He says, "Peace be unto you." And in that moment in Luke 24, he declares himself to be the source, the center of their peace and stability and future, the center of the entire biblical narrative, so the story of all stories, and the center of their purpose and power. He basically says, I am the story. I'm writing the story. I'm writing you into my story. I am the source of your stability, your hope, your peace, and I am really declaring you a new identity, a witness. You're here on mission for me. You're my representatives on planet Earth. I'm going to empower you and walk with you, and I'm going to be your promise as you walk through life. And in all of it, he is essentially inviting the followers, his followers, into a new story and, frankly, a new beginning. And when you turn the page from Luke 24 over to Acts 1, and I know that skips a book, but Luke's second part of his writings, Acts chapter 1, he begins by saying, "The former treatise have I made, O Theophilus, of all that Jesus began to do and to teach." And so here's the thought I want to give you today, that when Jesus becomes the author of your story, when you make Jesus the center of your life and you see in him the center of your peace, the center of the entire story of your life and time itself, and the center of your purpose and power, basically what that does is it puts you right in the middle of a brand new beginning in life. And Jesus basically in Luke 24 and Acts 1 restarts his disciples. He relaunches them in a brand new narrative. They're totally off of their script. Their script doesn't even exist anymore. Their life as they knew it will never be the same. And they are now totally engaged in a story that they could never, ever have conceived in a million years. I identify with it in my own story because I ministered for 22 years at a church on the West Coast, and God totally disrupted my story with a cancer struggle. And then right after healing me of that and getting me back a little bit of strength, he totally disrupted my story with a call to Connecticut, where we engaged in the revitalization and restoration of a hurting church. And now over the last 5.5 years, God has totally rewritten our story, the script that we had for our lives, my wife and I and our family. And the story, as we see it unfolding, is really just beginning. And so I very much identify with Luke's words to his friend Theophilus when he said, my first story in Luke, in that first treatise, was just the beginning of what Jesus began to do and teach. And what Luke is implying is that as these disciples are reset on a new course in a new story, Jesus is resuming a whole new story and a new work. And he's continuing very much so to work through them and in them. And friend, I want to give you this thought today as we conclude this week of study, that Jesus is desiring to write your story. He has a wonderful story in mind, and he's written you into his ultimate story. And I don't know what your past involves. I don't know what discouragement or despair this devotion may find you in, or what regrets or failures you might be looking at on the road behind you. But if Jesus will become the center of your life, you can turn around and you can walk forward in a brand new beginning and on a new script. And I'll tell you, Jesus' script is better than yours. Jesus' script is more substantial and more fulfilling and more wonderful than yours. Whatever you do, do not lean to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. That is God's invitation to you to write your story, and to write it in a way that is built on peace and promise and hope and strength and ability and power and deep, meaningful, eternal purpose. You are valuable. Your life matters. You are not randomly evolved biological matter. No, Jesus Christ wants to have a real relationship with you. You can have it by faith, coming to him, trusting Him, receiving Him, putting all of your hope in Him. And when that moment happens, you are a new creature. You begin a new beginning, and He becomes the author of your story.
You've been listening to Pastor Cary Schmidt of Newington, and this has been Bread of Life, a program to encourage you from God's Word.